She would love for you to talk about reproach, which is something Ani Pema talked about this morning.
Reproach?
As one of the 5 strengths of Lojong.
Reproach, okay.
Reproach.
Yeah.
She would like you to talk about that as a strength, but guilt is not productive on the path, and how to make sense of that.
Yeah. Very favorite subject of mine. Well, all of this, has to be relative experiences, right? And the relative experiences, from the beginning, you have to just kind of examine it without exploring the nature. If you explore the nature, then everything is going to become emptiness. So you cannot explore the relative world or experience. So it has to be always from unexamined. But what unexamined here means, unexamining the emptiness nature. But examining yet at the same time in the experience, how it unfolds, with what cause and what conditions, how it actually sort of, in the self-awareness you experience. So that's what it means. So that is a very important information to kind of understand. What does it mean by unexamined? Mata chikpu nyamgawa. If you are talking about, for example, a movie, if you explore how movie is made, you cannot actually, talk about movie, and you cannot actually tell the story what happened in the movie, So just at how it appears, if you're taking it on the face value in that way, then you could talk about the movie and how good movie that was, and how good movie that was, because how it made you feel, and what was the story, and how the story was so wonderful, and this and that and this and that, right? So that's a little bit of a background, So when you observe, that when you are caught in the guilt, what is happening to your mind and how the emotion operates, in the kind of a mere experience of your own self-awareness, you are kind of stuck in hoping that it did not happen, what had happened. There's no really so much kind of like going back and exploring what did happen. How did it happen? Where did you do something wrong, and how you did it wrong? What caused you to do the wrong? You don't explore any of those. It's just kind of stuck in this feeling of, I'm bad, first of all. I wish I didn't do. I wish it didn't happen. It's kind of like a going over and over and over and over and over in that kind of like, how do you say? The Ferris wheel. Ferris wheel. So it's not productive, But reproach is different. Reproach or regret is different. Regret meaning you go back and explore. What happened? How did it happen? What made you do? What was your state of mind like? What kind of a prompt you to act in the way you acted? What was the conditions? How did you lose your mindfulness if you intended to have a mindfulness? And so you learn so much from your deeds. And then there's a sense of like admitting, there's a sense of admitting of a doing wrong, if you have done wrong, but mostly you have done wrong. with a kind of ignorance and confusions for sure, and unconsciously kind of giving into conditions with a certain kind of like impulse or the reactions that sort of you had no sort of much of a control from inside. So then you learn so much about yourself, and so then you confess it all. Reproach has to be with the confession, of if you have done wrong, that you have done wrong, that you have, hurt yourself and you have hurt others. And then to have a sense of a strong self-determination to be more mindful, more present, more not to give in to the conditions that prompt you to react in the first place in the way you have reacted, and try to have some kind of a strength and the resistance. And if you feel like you could not have so much of a strength and a resistance because of the power of the habit of that particular thing that sort of like overwhelms you, making a call for higher power, so to speak, or supplication to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the gurus, those are very, very helpful, So in that way, then when the conditions are gathering, you are aware, and then you know what your tendency to react or predilection is to react the way that you have reacted. You could actually sort of stay calm. That's what Shantideva means by staying like a log. Staying like a log doesn't mean suppression. Staying like a log is being mindful, aware of all the conditions that you have already explored, and when they are sort of like regathering in your mind stream, how to sort of like stay, non-responsive to them with your strength and with your awareness, and with the calling of help, even if you need it from the kind of in the AA they call it higher power, because AA has to be secular, so therefore they're calling it higher power, which actually is very, very important, But in order to call for that, you have to also admit that you are vulnerable, and in order to be, in order to admit yourself being vulnerable, you have to, overcome your pride, and sometimes, that maybe is what's lacking, that kind of a humility, that kind of a self-admittance of a vulnerability, that kinds of a, overcoming one's pride to call for the blessing, and when you do call in that way the blessing, sometimes blessings are very, very immediate, and it can immediately sort of like give you the result of needed strength to overcome what you are going through, and in that way then you learn to pray. We all are proud in the beginning, but in that way then you learn to trust the kind of a blessing, and you learn to trust Guru, you learn to trust the three jewels, you learn to trust, because personally, however, it's vague for others, personally it's not vague. You have that experience very, very, very clear, So reproach in that way is a productive reproach with the confessions, reproach with the mindfulness and introspective vigilance, and then also prayers are very, very productive.